what dismissive avoidant feels during no contact. Your ex was a dismissive avoidant, you're doing no contact, you want to know what's going on in their head, whether it's the right approach, whether you're actually making things worse because they're avoidant in my nature. You might feel that if I detach, if I give them some distance and some space, they would move on, they would forget me. I will explain everything after the jingle.
igetmyexback.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
So first of all, a few words on what is a dismissive avoidant. I used to be dismissive avoidant, so I can relate a little bit to what your ex is going through, which I guess will be very helpful for you. It's basically, first thing is really the fear of commitment. The fear that they could depend on someone, okay, and that someone should depend on them. So they're obviously unsettled by the idea of closeness, of sharing things, and if an avoidant breakup, usually it's around the fear of commitment. So if you analyze your breakup, if you analyze the story you had with your ex, potentially at some stage it's around the commitment, it's around you wanting to get closer or wanting to build more intimacy. Usually there's a trigger around this. And so they feel overwhelmed because as it's very difficult for them to get close to someone, to open up, to share deep thoughts, to come across as vulnerable. It's very hard for them to reach a point of commitment that you might find either makes sense in the time of your relationship, i.e. you've been together for 2 and 3 years and moving in together makes sense. For them it's overwhelming. And they would have this kind of potentially, and let me know in the comment section because I think it's something people hear quite often, things around I'm not sure, I feel you love more than I do, or could be also I feel that you weigh more into me, more invested, and I can't give you what you expect. Okay, so that feeling that they can't provide you what you're after, they can't meet your needs and the needs to be close. Okay, so that's why usually dismissive avoidant would break up. I don't want to go into too much detail on this. It's the activation, deactivation thing, the anxious-avoidant trap. It's from the book Attached, a great book that I would recommend you to read. Basically, highlighting, you can pause the video here if you want to read it, but it's basically whenever you have that sign of threat, if you're anxious, and the sign of threat for you is your partner rejecting you, not providing you the love or the closeness that you expect, you will activate your anxious and make things worse. And when that happens, you will also deactivate their attachment of an avoidant who would basically take some distance and pull away. So pause the video here if you want to look at this. It's a very interesting graph. I didn't do it. It's from the book Attached that I recommend you to read. And so what DA, dismissive avoidance, would expect or fear? It's always about fear in this kind of cases. The anxious avoidant trap that we discussed, where you become more pushy when they claim their space. That breakup is just a demand. It's just they feel it's not working, they feel they need this to feel better. And so they potentially, unconsciously expect you to be even more clingy, even you to be even more demanding, to make things more dramatic. Okay? And to make the breakup harder than it has to be. Because even though they might come across as very detached, as very cold, as very distant, it's still a painful process if they care about you. This is how they will feel unless you don't give them this opportunity. Unless you learn how to stop activating this attachment style. How you can stop this process of fear, of insecurity that will push you to be more clingy, more needy. And that will push them to feel like it's not going to work. It's going to confirm my assumption that together that won't be able to work out. And so what you have to do is when you do no contact, you have to understand that your ex will go through a release phase. And that phase happens regardless of the attachment style. It's really because there's so much pressure in the decision that they really need, your ex will need that time apart for a couple of weeks to enjoy in a way that new phase in their life. They need to get things behind. And for dismissive avoidant, of course, you might be thinking he's already moving on or she's moving on, but it's really about moving forward. It's really about, okay, this is done, now I'm gonna go to the next step. And the next step could be you, okay? It depends on you, by the way. If you disturb this phase, if you're too clingy, if you're not doing a proper non-contact, or if you do a no-contact of 2 days, it's not gonna work. You're gonna really invade their bubble. You're gonna invade their space. And we're getting back to that anxious avoidant trap. Otherwise, if you do that, if you don't do proper no contact with an avoidant, you will validate the idea it's not working. I've asked something, I need my space, I need some time, and you're not giving that to me, okay? Until they rationalize. So this video is really if you have something special, if you're dating someone who's not really into you, it's going to be very hard to get back with an avoidant. Their studies, dismissive avoidant, they have a better ability to detach and bounce back. That's one of their traits. And I recognize myself in a way. When we tend to say we detach to someone, it's easier because we have this ability to self-soothe and to rationalize that in some way we are better than others, okay? But, as I said before, if what you had was special, they will start to think differently about you and the relationship, especially if you do the right things. They will start reconsidering things because their assumptions of the relationship, which is, I have to lose myself, I have to lose my freedom, I have to depend on someone and someone to depend on me, is not anymore the case, okay? They would realize their need for independence don't match the desire to be with someone. We have a fundamental need to be with someone. So that's the principle of attachment theory. Avoidant people still have this deep need for connection to a primary figure, to their mother, and when you're adult, to your spouse. Avoidants tend to deactivate this attachment, but it's there. And I'm a strong believer, because I've experienced it and because I see people around me experiencing it, that love and healthy and with a strong communication relationship can help avoidant to be more secure and to activate their attachment style. Okay? Also because, and it's written in the book Attached, there's also been quite a few studies showing that the more secure you are, the more secure your partner will be. And yes, some dismissive avoidants are just not interested. You also have to, and it's a question I ask quite often, is the age of your partner. It also comes with maturity, because dismissive avoidant, as they sort of rationalize, it's not that all dismissive avoidants will be players, but because they have this problem to commit, they would rationalize the failure of the relationship to the fact that their partner was not good enough. Okay, and they will either have the phantom ex, i.e. Desiring their ex and fantasizing about their ex, or looking up to someone else, and they will do a lot of monkey branching, and always to optimize their partners. After a while, they would realize that it's not their partners, it's really them. When they look at their other friends who are more secure, who are building relationship, they would start to be jealous and envious of those relationships. If you're not sure whether your relationship is strong enough, I put together a quiz for you to know if you have any chance to get back with your ex. It's totally free and the link is in the description. Have a look, it takes 3 minutes to complete, and you're gonna get the results right away, especially if your ex is avoidant. You get also some tips depending on your score. So what do they want? If your ex is 18, it's gonna be hard because the idea of commitment is different than when you're 30, 40, 50 years old. So what do they want? Meaningless relationship. Perhaps they just had a difficult divorce, and they're struggling to get to a new relationship. So it's really about giving them time. Maybe they don't want a relationship right now, and that's why they can't invest that time with you. Also ask yourself those questions. Is that what you want? they're able to give you a little bit of their time, a little bit of their space. Is that enough for you? Because at the end of the day, your ex might be an amazing person, but they might not be an amazing partner. And you have to decide for yourself. Your role, and finally, and it's a very important point of this slide, because there's another one afterwards. Your role as an ex is not to change them. I see that every day, people calling me saying like, he's suffering, he doesn't know what he wants, I want to help them, he's totally, he's going through a rough patch. Fair enough. You're caring, you're empathetic, you want to help, this is great. But being an ex is the worst position to be in if you want to help someone. And I would argue that, for example, if your wife or husband is going through depression, that's not your role to help them. You can support, you can be around, but that's not your role to support them. Okay? So one way for you to change them in a way is to work on your attachment. Security attracts security. And so from the graph that I showed earlier, you have this Venn diagram, and this is the middle. This is where you have to go, towards the security, and that would attract them to go to the security. So it's very important, if you feel that you're anxious, to work on what is called the working models. That's what we do in therapy. Really understanding how you function. Why is it so hard? What does it mean, this breakup? Why you can't get your ex out of your head? And finding the ways and the tools to really detach yourself and recenter and refocus your attention on yourself. There's another thing around the attachment needs, because you have needs. It's how you can get them met in other ways than just with your ex. So it could be with massage, because it's physical, you get someone to touch you, and it doesn't have to be sexual. With friends, it could be comfort food, it could be anything that will sort of help you through and find yourself connected. There are tons of others depending on your situation and on your style as well. The no contact will make them reconsider. That's a fact. This feeling you needed them, the idea that you were codependent, I put in bracket because people use this term a bit too much, and start from scratch. That's the whole point. You're gonna start from scratch. It's not about you, it's about the relationship. You were not the issue. The relationship was. They loved you, and that's the thing, very hard for you to understand perhaps. They loved you, they have feelings for you, but it's just the dynamic that didn't work out for them. That created this fear, this feeling of being overwhelmed, this stress. But it's nothing about you as a person, about how you interact, about maybe your anxious behavior, the fact that you wanted to check on them regularly or want to be connected more than they're comfortable with, perhaps, but it's nothing to do with you, because if you think about it, the time that you spent together was amazing. You had an amazing connection, you would be sharing a lot of things, having an amazing time when you were in the here and now, but it's more around the dynamic. And this is something you can change, right? Keep things light when you connect with them. Keep it simple. Don't try to address deep stuff right away. One of my tips is to also go on dates, but not especially dates where you be face to face and talking about everything for ages. Dismissive-avoidant don't like. They like to share moments with people, but even like pleasure-driven activities. Doing something together. I don't know, going to play golf, tennis, a lot of pleasure-driven activities, because dismissive-avoidant, they don't necessarily like to talk, they don't necessarily like to open up, and it's even worse when you reconnect with them after a breakup. So keep things very light. The deep talk will come after, one step at a time. I know you have a lot of clarity of what you want to address or what you want to discuss, of how you feel, of wanting to know how they feel and stuff like that. They are not ready for that. One step at a time, you reconnect, you let them see that a new relationship is possible, a new dynamic is possible, and you grow from that. Any question, don't hesitate to comment. If you want to support, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.